Alright guys, welcome back to Urge. Alex, Jameson here, coming to you with the Subclass series, moving on to the Fiend Warlock. The way we do the Subclass series, for anyone who is new to the series, we
make sure you watch all of the rest of them.
Because
we're like
90%
through here.
Yeah, we're getting to the final countdown here. But basically, we're looking at how much each subclass improves on their base class, not necessarily how good this subclass is compared to all other classes and subclasses, but how much the abilities gained in this subclass improve on the base class.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about the combat value, the RP value, and the overall class synergy.
Yes.
So, that being said, we're just going to jump right into it.
Boom.
Go. We got it.
Okay, go. Okay, fine, sorry. Your fiend spells that you get, man, they make sense. It's a lot of fire stuff. I mean, you've got Burning Hands, Scorching Ray, Fireball, Fire. Flame Strike, Fire Shield, Wall of Fire. It's a lot of fire things. It makes sense. You think Fiend, you're thinking, fiends come from the Nine Hells. It makes sense, fire. That's most of what it is. So a lot of combat-based spells you get. Of course, the only drawback still with Warlock is not a lot of spell slots, but the point Jameson makes is you do get Fireball.
You do get Fireball.
And it's automatically always cast at the highest level. There's no is it worth casting at a higher level? We really don't have a choice. The answer is yes.
And one thing we kind of mentioned earlier when we were discussing this, with Warlock in general, the way Warlocks usually work is there's not really any reason to save your spell slots because you only have 2 until you're level 11.
11, yeah.
So with that, you're pretty much just going to blow all your spell slots every combat. Blow all 2 of them.
Yeah.
And then you're just going to be betting on getting short rests between every combat. So with that in mind, being able to just be like fireballs for days kind of thing, it's pretty good.
Yeah, still pretty cool. The first ability you actually get is Dark One's Blessing, which you get level 1. So anytime you, as the Warlock, the Fiend Warlock, reduce a enemy's... Is this specific enemies? Yeah, it's hostile creature.
Yeah,
want to double check that it's a hostile
creatures.
You knock out any hostile creature, you get to add temporary hit points to yourself, which is equal to your modifier, your charisma modifier, obviously being Warlock, plus your Warlock level. So you're level 8, you've got a 18 charisma, so you're going to get 12 extra temporary hit points for knocking something down. Double check the ruling on temporary hit points. Earlier, we want to make sure we clarified some things. Is it won't keep stacking. So if you keep killing things, in combat, it's just going to reset them or replace. So if you get hit, take 9 damage out of your temporary 12. If you kill something else, you get 12 different hit points. It removes the 3 you had left, replaces it with 12.
Yeah. One instance of temporary hit points.
Correct.
You're thinking about playing this class, these kinds of things are important because
Yes.
it might change it because you're like, I get 1,000,000 hit points if I kill a bunch of little stuff.
I've got more health than a barbarian does. If I
Doesn't
get
work like
fireball and blow it up.
Okay, so at 6th level, you get Dark One's Own Luck. Basically, you can call on your patron to alter fate in your favor. So it's basically, if you're familiar with a bard, inspiration, it's very similar to that.
Yes.
When you make an ability check or saving throw, you can use the feature to add a d10 to your roll. You can do it after seeing the roll, but before any effects happen. So you can roll it and be like, I rolled a 2, I'm gonna add a d10 to it. But before before the game's like, well, you die, If he does it really fast, then you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
But
Just gotta work with your DM there, be on the same page. Like, hey, I'd had this ability.
Right.
Keep that in mind if you don't mind.
So once you use the feature, you have to wait until you have another rest, short or long. So as Warlock, like you said, you're trying to read your spells a lot because you're hoping to get them back regularly. Right. So you should probably use this ability the same way you'd be using a spell slot, essentially. Yeah,
you're thinking once per combat. One saving throw because there's another enemy spellcaster and they throw a fireball at you because they saw you do it and it looks cool, so they wanted to do it. Be a good time to go ahead especially if you think you may be borderline on the save.
Yeah, for sure.
Better to go ahead and make sure you take half damage when you get something that big. Or if you're doing a big, heavy RP session and just pick out the biggest possible ability check you've got in that session and pull that trigger then. Because you might as well spend it. You're going to get back every short rest you get, so.
As a Warlock, you're an edgelord. You're always living on the edge.
Yeah.
You have no spell slots. You got no abilities. You're just burning all of them all the time because fire.
Your whole thing is you blow everything, and you're like, hey guys, can we take a short rest, please?
I feel a little sleepy here.
It's like, I need a little napper, please, thanks. Yeah, Warlocks, guys. Well, your third ability you get is Fiendish Resilience. There we go.
Got there.
Fun words. Level 10, starting at anytime you take a short rest, you can choose one damage type and gain resistance to that damage type. Full stop. Really, really cool. I love this ability so much.
Pretty good.
Because it just says it persists until you change it.
Yep.
So if you don't think about it, it's just still what it is. You're like, oh, I had a short rest. It's like, okay, short rest, roll a hit dice damage. If you chose lightning damage, it's still going to be lightning damage. You're like, oh, cool. I don't have to keep, it's something you have to think about and keep redoing and keep asking for the DM to make happen or whatever. It's just something that just passively happens once you pick it. And because it's short rest, you know, if you know you're going, it's like, well, we're going to the fire plane. I'm like, I'm just going to take fire damage. Okay, thanks. Well, then you get down there and lightning elementals have invaded the fire plane. It's like, short rest.
right. Pretty much.
Which, once again, seems like a lot of tedious stuff, like you said, but it still falls under what warlocks do anyway.
Yes.
Of short, like they live and breathe on the short rest. So
part of playing subclass is understanding how the base class works.
Yes.
So taking full advantage of that. The only one thing with this resilience is magic weapons and silver weapons bypass it.
Yeah, so if you choose bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind. But I would probably lean, especially by the time you get to level 10, I'd be leaning more toward the, elemental type
more
damages
common.
with your resistances.
Magical,
Because most things you'll be fighting at that level, unless you're just fighting an army of goblins and things,
Right.
are gonna have magical weapons at that point. So
Yeah.
probably better off.
And then lastly, at level 14, you have Hurl Through Hell, which does pretty much exactly what it sounds like it does. Whenever you hit a creature with an attack, you can choose to use this feature, and basically what it does is it sends them to hell.
Yes.
It says, instantly transport target creature through the lower planes.
Bye, Felicia.
Creature disappears and hurtles through a nightmare landscape. So, until the end of your next turn, they are having a fun trip. And they also take 10d10 psychic damage if they're not a fiend. Which
Yes.
most times, if it's a fiend, they're like, yeah, I'm home.
Yeah,
It's like hey, you see your buddies and
little
stuff.
vacation there.
So yeah, they're not too traumatized.
But
by
you
it.
would know.
Everybody
But you
else-
would know that obviously before you.
Yeah, most time, yeah, you're gonna be able to understand.
So the three big things to keep in mind there, it's not, there are no saving throws involved in any part of this process. So
Once you hit, you just boom, tap
and
on
you're a
bonus
warlock.
die.
It also does not specify it has to be a melee attack. So
No, whenever you hit.
Whenever you hit. So you're a warlock. So what are you doing? Let's wait for it. Eldritch Blast. And because it has multiple beams, the odds of you hitting whatever you're going to hit, if you target the same thing with your Eldritch Blast, is going to have 3, even 4 beams at later levels, you're going to hit whatever you're trying to hit. And even if you're even if you're targeting an ancient red dragon, would still work.
Yeah, they take 10d10 on top of your beam.
Let's once again I emphasize it's 10d10 damage. There is no save on taking the half
You
damage.
just take it.
They get ejected from combat for a full round.
Yeah, they're banished for a turn, and they take 10d10.
And then take up
Psychic.
to 100 psychic damage. Once again, is one of the most least resisted. There we go. Least resisted damage types in the game. So it's a once per day thing, but is an absolute bomb to draw.
Yeah, it's just an extra, 50, 60 damage, pretty much on average.
Pretty
You're
much.
just adding. So, that being said, we'll move right into the rating section. First, we have the combat value. If you were following along here, everything is combat based.
All 4 of
You're
them.
doing all of your extra spells you get pretty much are combat based. There's maybe some arguments, maybe some RP here and there, but I mean, Burning Hands, Fireball, Wall of Fire, Scorching Ray, you're damaging stuff. Dark One's Blessing, you're gaining hit points. Dark One's Own Luck, you're adding a D10 to your
Saving
rolls.
throw. Yeah.
Resilience, you're adding survivability, and Hurl Through Hell, you're doing extra damage. So everything's combat based. That have warrants for us a 5 out of 5 for the combat, because every single ability and the majority of all the extra spells that you get are all combat based. So, There's not really much more to say about that. Every single ability gives you some extra benefit in combat. So
and the crazy and there, with the exception of your big stick at the end, which is an absolute nut case of an ability, even on a once per day thing. Everything else is get it back on short rest or just happens at all time.
Yeah.
Or change it at short rest, which then already builds with what a warlock is based on, getting a short
I
rest.
said one last side note on this is your last ability you gain at 14. There's a lot of classes that don't get their last ability to 17.
Yeah.
So 14, 3 levels earlier, it might not seem like a lot, but
That's
when you get to those higher
ton
levels,
of-
that's
ton
way big difference.
Yeah, for sure.
Just thought that in there.
Yes. Onto the RP side of things, where once again, if you most of the time when you're dealing with subclasses, if one's a 5, the other one's not going to be as good, and that's the case here. Just because there's not much there on the RP side of things. I mean, there is Hallow, Blindness, Deafness, and Command that you do get spells wise that you can. There are definitely Hollow's definitely an RP spell. Blindness, Deafness, and Command can be used in an RP setting, and with your Dark One's on luck, it's either saving throw in combat or an ability check on the RP side of things. So there's a little bit there, but this is definitely a combat-based subclass. So
yeah, definitely.
Went with a 2 out of 5. It's not just atrocious. It has just some basic things to it, but there's not a lot of additional building onto what the base Warlock already has on the RP side of things.
There are some like very minor, questionable things that you can add. Where like Hurl Through Hell, and you could use that as like the worst interrogation ever, basically.
But more than likely, if you're tearing them, it might kill them.
Yeah, right. You just resurrect. You just bring them back, baby. We do it again tomorrow until you give us the answer we're looking for. So there's like arguments.
What do we do? We're
Basically,
gonna do
like,
tomorrow, Brent.
basically-
Same thing we try to do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
But basically, there's just arguments that there are. Why we didn't give it a 1, essentially. There are, and everything has, you do a little ritual for your resilience, or every time you want to switch it, you could do like a little thing. However, it's up to you. Lastly, we have the overall class synergy. As we've mentioned, having abilities that, getting these spells here are very big to get back on short rest. Like, for example, being able to cast level 4 or 5, fireballs regularly. It's pretty good.
Yes.
Because you're going to be, dealing with lots of damage. If you're able to cast, 6 times a day, 8 times a day, fireball, at high levels, it's going to be quite a bit up there. So that's synergized with your class, obviously. And then there's all these short rest abilities and, survivability and stuff like that. Synergized with how the Warlock works. So we went ahead and gave it a 4 for overall synergy. Still very solid. Maybe some little things that could make it better. But that being said, it is a very strong overall option for the subclass. And just because we gave it a 2 in RP doesn't mean it's bad at RP. Because again, any player can change how the RP is done.
It's much more RP is more based on the player itself anyway.
So when we talk about the RP, we're talking about how the abilities add to it, not necessarily the player playing the character. Because any player that's experienced with roleplay stuff is going to make the RP great no matter what, because they're just going to make a good backstory. Combat based, definitely.
Yes.
Subclass here for the Warlock. But if you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments if there's anything you want to see from us in the future. I've had a couple people ask us about doing these different subclasses. We will go through all of the books one by one, go through all the subclasses, and then through the Unearthed Canon once we get through all those. So
then you guys have got some work to do for what else you want to see in this series.
So
we're definitely going to get back into some of our other series, and D&D we touched into some of the monster side of things. We'll get through this as well, but let us know what you want to see.
That's it for this one, guys. As always, thanks for watching.